Hey, Rick, good morning. Hope we're coming through okay out there. Right on. Gonna try something a little bit different today. Once we get a few folks in here. Good. We were having some technical difficulties out here in the country last night for whatever reason. Somebody was using more of the intranet than they were supposed to, because we weren't getting the signal. Seems like for whatever reason, sometimes in the evenings it's worse here, and I don't know if it's, if there's more of a pull on the network, even though it's a satellite that's broadcasting. I don't know how all that works, but I can tell that usually for sure around dinner time, if we're watching a show or something while we're eating dinner, a lot of times it will buffer and skip and load and do all that weird stuff. So now I've got a little bit of a different camera angle. I messed around and tried to get to where I could zoom in on my hands a little bit more, and we're going to do some pressure flaking today. I think this view is going to be one that you guys can see kind of what I'm talking about as far as the platforms and how on a pressure flaked platform, it's really no different than a percussion platform. It's just a matter of the size of it and the tool that you use to remove the flake. So we're starting to get a few people show up in here. Excuse me. But I think this angle will show you guys that jumped back out though. That's weird. Hold on just a second. Let's see if that's where I had it. That's why I hadn't done that in the past, because I'd had some difficulties or issues with that. Zooming in and trying to show a better picture of what I was doing. So I think this angle will show closer to, how we can figure out where the center of this is now, because it's pretty zoomed in. This was that biface that we made out of that wonky piece of Georgetown here last week sometime, I believe it was. So I'm going to attempt to turn this into a Dalton, and we're going to go over a lot of the platform preparation that I use on on pressure flaking. All right. Now you can see on this, we've got a few little undercut flakes right here. You see how flat and, hey Mad Dog, how you doing this morning? You see how that's undercut? You can see right in here, this big flat area. So what we want to do is try to start building convexity into that. And to do that, we have to remove flakes into that area. And at the same time, we're setting it up where we've got an area here that there's a little bit of mass, but we're building some good convexity there. Let's see what I want to start with. Let's try this one. I'll try to keep as much of this in frame as I can. Like I said, when you get zoomed in, it's a little hard to try to make sure I'm not hiding it from you. Now all I did right there, I didn't really grind those. I put dust on them. You can see that they're still relatively sharp. They're not rounded off. Where that dust is at is just above the edge. You see how that's still fairly sharp? Because I'm not trying to take big flakes off of that. Let's see, where's a good angle here. I'm just going to put this at the tip of one of those deltas and go straight down. Little tiny flake. But what that does, I'll show you after I do a little series of them on this. But if you're trying to push into that, you're going to end up with flakes that run in there, and then they cause you more problems. So now you've got a flat area that's got messy terminations for the flakes, where they're going out into that flat and then they're stopping. So now you have no convexity to go after that problem, and you just start compounding the issues that you're having. Like I said, I'm not pushing in at all on these. These are just straight down on the edge. You get to a little bit of a beefier area, like right in here. I have a little bit of mass there and enough of a platform where I can actually push in on this flake to kind of roll that into the contours of the rest of it. You can see how it's just a little thicker in that spot. See, and that flake just curled into the edge of that. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to run them all the way across. I'm trying to build an edge that's got convexity so that the next pass that I do will run farther. And that's, until your final pass, that's what you're going for. Hey, Blake, good morning. See, these are just straight down, trying to build convexity there. Fuzzy Bunny Feet, how you doing? All right, then after I pull those down and kind of get that edge starting to roll or turn, I'm just brushing this. It's not grinding. You know, I'm not doing this with it and rounding that edge. All I'm doing is brushing off any light little flakes. And you can see, like I said, it's still fairly sharp. It's not rounded off. If you round off an edge with antler, if it gets too rounded off, and especially on a continuous platform, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because it's antler needs a little bit of an area to grab to get purchase, and it also needs somewhat of a thinner edge for the rock to start separating, you know, where it breaks apart into the cone. Right on. Well, that's what I was trying this morning, Mad Dog, is I wanted to show you guys some pressure flaking and trying to get an angle that you could see what I was doing. But I'm going to tell you, there'll probably be a time or two today that I may get out of camera, because I'm not used to being, you know, put in one spot to pressure flake. So I need to kind of angle a little bit this way, actually, because I have a tendency to lean, you know, when I'm really trying to put a lot of force into it, I bury this up against my chest and I lean into this and then do the downward motion to pull the flakes. So, all right. We just took those flakes. This is that, let me show you this before I get ahead of myself. This is that low area that we just pulled all those flakes into. You see how that we've still got a low spot right here that we're gonna have to work around, but all down that edge now, do you see how we now have convexity where I pulled those flakes off instead of flat. And we'll run another set this way and then do the same thing back here where it's still flat and a little bit concave. And then everywhere else we'll just try to stay in line with that. All you're trying to do is just line that whole edge up so that you get as close for this point style. I'll stress that if your final pass on that point is pressure flake, like ordered pressure flake like a Dalton, you're going to want a very continuous platform, and then also very good contours and lines on that piece so that all your flakes are very similar. That's what gives you that. That's why, like with the fog napping, yeah, does that make sense a little bit more now, Mad Dog? If you look, that whole edge that I just pulled those flakes off of, this used to be undercut. And now it's got a little bit of convexity. There's one little spot right here and then this mass here. But we'll get that on the next pass because we're just building that roundness, that convexity to that piece. This side has already got pretty good convexity, but I don't want to try to shove flakes in there yet because then I'll lose my convexity. So as I get closer to my final pass, then I've got to rebuild it. Does that make sense? All you're trying to do when you get to the point where your thickness, I know I'm actually a little bit too thin at this point for this, but once you hit your thickness, quit trying to drive flakes in. You're not trying to thin it anymore. You're trying to shape it, and you're trying to build contours that are going to give you that one final pass. If I keep pushing flakes off to thin this, then when it comes time for my final pass on this, then I'm not going to have any convexity or material to shove that off there. So what you're going to see me do, that's why, especially when I'm working on a Folsom, there's just so much pressure flaking because these are not big flakes. They're just, I'll show you what this looks like before and after. Okay, here's my platform that I'm going to pull these flakes off of. Now you see how you can see in some spots, like right there, there's a little bit more mass. I'll try to push in just a little there, but not a lot. I don't want to make a concavity. I just want to even this whole edge up. So I start off of an end, and I'm just pulling straight down. I'm putting contact straight down. See, and they're little curly flakes. They're not driving. That one ran in because there was a ridge there and a lot of convexity. I didn't try to push that, and it still went almost an inch into that. But what it did was took out part of a ridge and it evened it out. So now as I'm pushing these off here, I'm looking at the convexity of the other side of this point and how it's getting closer and closer. Yep, that is, hey Zach, good morning. That is why, Mad Dog. Because it's all about building that convexity for the flakes to travel. If you don't have the contours right, when you go to try to drive flakes, they're not going to go anywhere. See, in here it's a little steeper and I'm trying to take a little more downward. I actually came up to alter how far in that flake went. Now here's an area where I've got that mass. You can see right behind that. Right here. And I want that to go in just a little bit to help taper that whole contour of that area. Put just a little grind on that because it's a little tougher flake, and then put some of that dust on there. Because the reason I wanted to do that, You see how they're right there underneath that, how it's a little chattery, it's kind of a sketchy little spot. Right off where I want to put that. So I ground just to the side of it, I'm going to push down this way. Now I'm not really forcing it in, but I'm putting a little inward pressure and then down. Tool sliding off there. I may have overground it. No, that was that little sketchy spot that just basically made a tiny little cone. So I'm just going to isolate the little ridge that created. I'm still fairly much in line. You know, I'm still going to have to come in with other series. So I'm all right here. I'm just going to pull off a little flake just to kind of minimize the damage. And that pretty much cleaned it up. You can see where it just popped over the top of it. But once you get later in the stages like this, little stuff like that makes a big difference, because like I said, I'm almost at my finished thickness on this. You know, it's not very far, but it's a final pass in the center from being, you know, done. So Terry, good morning. So you don't want to, any little problem at this point is you're losing a lot of material trying to fix it. All right, now here's that edge that we just went down. Okay, these are where the flakes were removed. And you see that convexity and how that's starting to round into this? See how nice that is? But you see how it's almost like an undercut, sharp, right there at the edge. Okay, that's a concavity that we have to remove before we can take any more flakes this way. This is where I go in on these little sharp deltas on all these terminate, you know, like in between each of the flakes. I'm just going to take little tiny flakes and round that. Now, you can do it if you've got the right texture of a hammerstone. You can perform the same thing with it. It's basically shearing the edge, and I'm just pushing down. Now, sometimes depending on where I'm at on the point or the rock, how it's reacting, I might do this with a pressure flaker and then go back and brush it if I need to be really precise. But anywhere there's a little sharp spot that I'm trying to pull off there, and then what you'll end up with, as you go back, you see all these little tiny isolated platforms now? That's what those essentially are, is isolated platforms. So then you go back with your pressure flaker. That's not the one I was using. And you use those little platforms and go straight down again. Because those are set up on ridges, they're going to continue that convexity on around. Now don't do the whole edge, just where you see those little areas that caught that dust. And these aren't, you know, big flakes at all. These are little tiny flakes. But what it's doing is it's sorry, I had to put a little bit more into that one. That was that spot that was giving us trouble a while ago, but I got it. But what we're doing is just smoothing out that edge. And that's why you'll see me say so much that, you know, I'll finish that up and then show you guys later, because prior to this, you know, trying this camera angle here, it's really difficult to show you what I'm doing to where it makes any sense. So I'm hoping that this is being somewhat helpful. All right, now this is what we're looking for. Now I'll brush the edge like I did before. Hey, Paul, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Guys, those of you that are new in, welcome. If you've got any questions, morning, Don. If you've got any questions, shout them out. If let's see what we got here. Dream Bubba MD, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. All right, now that we've got this, oh, I was going to tell you guys too, we've got, at the end of this month, I'm going to do my subscriber giveaway. This would be a better angle for that little snake, that little Comanche symbol I did. And this is out of raw Buffalo River. And it's got some lines in the tail, so I just turned that into it's like a little rattlesnake tail. So I'm going to be giving that away at the end of this month on a drawing. You don't need to be present to win. That's for my subscribers. So just as a little thank you. Hello, Dream Bubba. All right, so now the reason I've been working off this edge and not this one is really close to being, as far in this way. I need to, the convexity is not bad on this side, and it's not, there's not a lot of issues with this one. This was where my issue. I've got one little low spot right here that I'll have to work through, but I think we can get that one. And then there's a little bit of a step chatter spot right here, but I've got enough space on the tip to get that one. But what we're doing now, this is the original side, the first side we went down, and how, that flat spot that we've got right here. Whoop, let me get it in the camera, right there. So again, instead of trying to drive flakes into that, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper on either side of it, and then almost straight down into it. And the same thing, and what we're doing is just building that. Yep, that is, it's very similar to a Comanche symbol, Dream Bubba. But yeah, I'll send that off to one of my subscribers at the end of this month. All right. Need a little bit more. It's a little bit sharp. Hey, Big Wheeler. What's going on? So now I'm not really grinding it. I'm just on the back side of that, well, you guys can see now what I'm talking about better on the angle. You see how when I'm brushing that edge, all that dust that comes up on the edge of that. It's like chalking a pool cue, and it's also smoothing that edge so that I make really good contact with the tip of the tool. So now we've got dust on that edge. This is our low spot we're going to try to work around. So I'm going to take flakes from the tip, more inward, down a little here, and then more inward once we get on the other side. Yeah, I'm working on it, Justin, as far as for pressure flaking. This won't work if I do anything other than pressure flaking, but for this, it works pretty good. Little flake to get it started. See, and those are just rounding out just over the top of that little hump there. That was almost straight down. Same thing. See, we're going through that low spot right there. So I'm trying to make sure that everything is down and not in. Now we're the other side of it, a little more inward. know that leather's kind of hiding some of this. Sorry, guys. All right. Yeah, it's no fun when you're out of rock, for sure, Big Wheeler. All right, now you can see, and I picked a darker stone. Hopefully this will show up better on the camera. But you can see this was that series I just took. Not hardly any of those except for where there was areas of a little bit of mass. Those are every one of them, just they trail out to about right there. And what that does, again, you see that convexity, and now how we've got more of a ridge right here. Not quite yet. I mean, that's why these are so pressure heavy on their work, because to get the right convexity, to get those flakes to go all the way across, you have to do it this way. And that's, you know, we're going to do the same thing again. I've got all of these little sharp deltas, okay? And every one of those little sharp deltas is right on a little ridge where between two flakes, okay? Good, Todd. I'm glad it's working. I had it a while ago, and then it jumped back to regular view. So if I'm leaned in there and you guys get a good look at my face, you know, I apologize. I don't want to scare anybody. So, but no, this will work for pressure flaking. But anything else, you know, I can't really do much work when it's. I mean, I'm in a. Let's see. That's probably 10-inch window of what you guys can see to get this view. Actually, it's smaller than that. My fingers are each at the edge of where my view is, or where, you know, so it's pretty tight. But anyway, those little deltas right there, if you look at those, instead of being like little tiny pressure flake deltas, think of those as like what's left over after a big percussion set where you run down the edge. We'll get it right up there so you can really see. See, you've got, each of those have got that little ridge that runs off of them. But they're also a little bit undercut. See how that kind of overhangs? And there's, on this edge, there's no convexity. It actually undercuts just a little bit. So, to get rid of that, what you do is, I'm going to drag this. I'm going to see if I can get it where you can see some of the flakes coming off. Because they come off pretty quick, but they're little. I'm not grinding this, I'm shearing it. I'm actually taking off flakes. And when I get to a spot that still sticks out, you see how that one, I brushed on it quite a bit and it's still kind of proud. It still sticks out there a little bit. Well, what you'll do is after you get done brushing down all those little loose flakes, seeing that the tip of that one just came off with that. And that's what will happen is, basically it's like a little mini hammerstone hit. You know, I'm brushing that off there, shearing that off there, but it's not grinding it, it's actually taking off loose flakes. And I'll show you. So once you can actually see, let me see if I can get right close. See all those little tiny flakes? This is a great shot of them. See all of those? I'm not grinding that. Those are tiny little flakes that are coming off that edge. And what it did is, instead of that now being undercut, if you look at it, it's now convex. And we've got, you know, places to be able to run those flakes over. Now, everywhere where I brushed that and it's still sticking out just a little bit, those are spots that if I hook onto that with my pressure flaker, just a real light pull. Let me sharpen this up just a little bit because we're doing some really tight, close work here. Absolutely. Todd, I'm glad that helped. Well, and a lot of people don't think of that, on that kind of scale, but even, you guys have listened to me preach it, that everything is exactly the same. It just gets smaller or bigger, so if you think about that as a edge on a large biface instead of on a little small pressure plate preform, then it'll start making more sense. Right on, Big Wheeler. That's exactly what I watch everybody. I watch people that do different styles from the way that I nap. Different tools, because the physics and everything about it are all the same. The tools, you have to make certain allowances for certain tools, but all in all, the physics of it are the same. So if you see somebody that's doing something, even if it's a different style than you do, you can a lot of times adapt that to work, with how you do stuff. All right. So everywhere that's still a little bit low, I'm going to go back in and just pull off a little flake off that point. Straight down. See how small those flakes are? That's a tiny little ribbon flake. And that was into that flat spot that we work around. So that's why I'm more down. And then these are straight down. And I'm going back over everywhere that had a low spot and just picking off flakes. Some of them I can get a little bit more inward force and adjust that angle a little more. Some of them it's more just downward. But I'm constantly trying to build the convexity. Okay, now that was that series. Now you see how rounded this is and how nice and convex that's getting. There's the platform that we just pulled those off of. So again, broken record, but we're going to drag that edge. Now this time it's going to be a lot smoother, because what we just pulled off there was all the little deltas that were left. And you're going to see when I flip this back, that low spot is almost gone. We've built really nice convexity on that side. Hey, Deer Trail. And I'm shearing that back to get a nice platform to come onto this face. Okay, now there's a little low spot. You can see it sticking out right there. That's the kind of stuff that as I'm brushing this, I'm looking for. Sometimes I'll take that with like a little heavier brush on the hammerstone, and it'll take that off there. But I don't want to take a chance of putting and see, okay, right here. You can see where it's at, and there's a little bit of a ridge right behind it. Just a little contouring flake. Just like that. There was another one. Whenever those little low spots present themselves like that, and you can adjust your edges and build more convexity, then that's what I try to do in those situations. Now, Hey, there's my honey. She's in the next room. It's not like it's a... Working from home today. Okay, now you can see the angle that I'm brushing that on there. I'm not grinding that edge. I'm polishing the platform and I'm putting dust on it. Now there, I'm brushing the edge of it. I'm just trying to take any little thin flake and try to hit it at a few different angles. Yeah, that's stone and antler, Big Wheeler. That's all I nap with. I don't think you've seen me use a silver or a copper anything. It's all been antler and rocks. Thank you for pinning that. I don't know, did I have something in my hand a while ago that looked... I'm a little bit confused, I guess. Sorry. No, this is just a chunk of I don't even know what kind of antler. Maybe whitetail. Oh yeah, Mr. Nobody. I don't know. I mean, that's like I said. I just use the antler and stone tools, and you wouldn't have seen me with copper. And not that I have anything against it. Don't get me wrong. You know, I try very hard not to. There's a lot of people out there that are really divisive in the community. Yeah, Justin, definitely somebody else. But there are a lot of divisive folks in the community that seem to think it's necessary to put down other people in the way that they create their art. And oh, right on. Yeah, and I don't have anything against, you know, any other type of napping. It's kind of like, you know, there was a guy on Facebook here recently, was basically... Oh yeah, that sucks, Big Willow. No, but this guy was basically downing, you know, people that use like the fog machine, you know, the flake over grind and the slab napping and all that. And I kind of liken it to painting or to playing a guitar. I'm a musician. I'm not much of a painter, but I am an artist. I work with colored pencils and that kind of stuff. But Todd, I think it's, I don't exactly like that. I couldn't say exactly, but something like it was used. Whether it was indirect percussion, whether it was some type of a levering device. I'm actually working on another couple of different types of fluting. I think that yeah, Mr. Nobody. That's what I'm getting to, and sorry about that. But yeah, Todd, I think it's a viable. I think it is absolutely something that a variation of it could have been done. Now, Mr. Nobody, for me, I liken it to a painter that likes to work with watercolors instead of oil paints, or a guitar player, a musician that likes Taylor guitars over Martins. It's a personal preference, and it's a medium that or media that just it speaks to me. You know, I napped for 20 years, almost 21 years, using mainly copper, and some antler, never any hammerstone work. I'd never done any of that. And about 9 years ago now, I saw a Marty Reuter video on YouTube, flintnappingtips.com. If you guys have not ever checked him out and you like this kind of flint napping, the dude is a master. I mean, hey Todd, check out the YouTube channel, man. I'm starting to get a bunch of stuff loaded up. So if you're missing these, everything that here lately is going to be up there. I've got I think I'm up to almost the end of February now. So all of these lives are going to be uploaded on our YouTube channel. So if you guys do have to leave and you want to watch what's going on and be able to tune back in, then you can do that. But no, Mr. Nobody, to me, that's what it's all about. I mean, I love this craft. There are some people that work with, such almost jewelry grade materials that, they cut them into slabs so that they can maximize the amount of material that they get from those resources. For me, if I were to take a rock, well, I had a rock that this was made out of. I did this on live, and this rock was about that long, and it was wonky, and it was whatever. But had I cut that into slabs, I might have got 2 or 3 of these out of it. So they use it in a way to maximize the use of the material. And then when they grind in the perfect convexity on there, you hear me talk about it all the time. That's one of the things that I always, build that convexity. Well, the reason that those flakes on like the flake over grind, why you get those ribbon perfect flakes, is because they've ground into it a convexity, and they put on a perfect continuous edge on there. And that's why when you're using these tools and these techniques, you're basically imitating what if you look at this, if you hadn't seen me napping it make it looks like it came out of a slab. It's flat, it's uniform in size. That's what we're trying to get to. And that's, you can learn a lot from, I've watched a lot of the guys that do the fog napping, their platform preparation, the contours that they build. There's a lot of that stuff that is definitely beneficial, even if that's not the style that you nap. But I don't know, to me, when I saw this it's just natural and it's organic, and it just feels like something that I want to do. I've been accused of reinventing the wheel by a good friend of mine for a number of years. I always revert back to the oldest stuff. I bought a pew that was all set up to for long range, and then for whatever reason a muzzle loader, man, that made more sense. And then from that I got into archery and started off with a cam wheel bow, a Matthews Feather Max, and then decided I wanted to do recurve and longbow, and then I started making my own bows out of sticks, so it just seems to be a reoccurring thing for me. But the tools just speak to me. I don't know. Yeah, man. I mean, but to me, that's you get such a, for me at least, an understanding of, it's one thing to sit here in my napping area drinking a cup of coffee and Mr. Nobody, just depends on the wood and depends on, if I use primitive tools, a long time. If I use modern tools on it, I can make one from a seasoned stave in a couple of days from beginning to end. If I just go and work on it, tillering it and ready to start shooting on it. But I don't make many anymore. I've got 2 in process sitting here in my Cavio right now. So yeah, and that's exactly Big Wheeler. Well, the thing that got me, it was the same thing with the bench pew that I set up. At a certain point, it just almost becomes boring when I can, put my pin on a target at 30 yards and squeeze the release and group stuff where I'm only shooting 2 arrows, because if I shoot more than that, I'm screwing up a $30 arrow. It just, it didn't resonate with me, you know? And this first time I shot a longbow, you know, instinctively, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. It's the same as when I started using these tools in flint knapping. It spoke to me, you know. It just felt natural and organic. And I played baseball as a young man. I was a pitcher, and I had good hand-eye coordination. And I picked up really quickly with instinctive shooting with a bow. And you know, it's just one of those things that, you know, everybody's got their thing. I just don't want anybody to down anybody else for what they do. You know, I love what I do because I love what I do. I don't love it because you do what you do, because I don't really care what you do as long as it makes you happy and it doesn't impede on my happiness. That's my only spot. You know what I mean? So anyway, enough gabbing. Let's get back to this. Oh yeah, me too, Big Wheeler. When I discovered them anyway. All right. Downward flakes. That one lipped a little bit much. That was a little too much platform for that. Well, Don, like I said, a lot of folks, it's whatever speaks to you, man. And I know that the Viking culture and a lot of that, you know, they were once the invent of the crossbow, that was a game-changing wicked weapon for sure. Oh, that flake took out a lot of that little ridge right there. Right on, Don. Yeah, I sold my compound years ago, and I tried crossbow a little bit when they made it illegal archery means here in Arkansas, and they shoot well. I don't know. For me, like I said, it just didn't speak to me. Something like, I don't know, when I've got an old 30-30 that I have carried for years, and nothing feels like opening day of pew pew season. Yeah, me too, Don. You can't eat antler, but you can nap with it. All right. See how that now built that convexity. Now we've got, you know, a nice rounded convexity. This was our low spot a while ago. See how that's now got that? It's starting to get rounded off because we've picked those flakes in there to it. But I think you guys are starting to get a little bit of an understanding of why I do a lot of my finish work. Bucknut I have. In fact, I think I've got one of my followers is getting ready to send me a chunk of it. So I'm anxious to see what they send me. But yeah, I have worked some. It's not something that I have a lot of access here to. Most of the stuff that I work is Well, up until here, not too recently, but was all self-collected. But I've been blessed by several folks sending me some material from the areas that they live, and had the opportunity to work some different stuff. So, but most of the time I work self-collected material from here in Northwest Arkansas area. All right, now I'm just kind of picking those deltas. All right. All right, I think we're going to pull some off this other side now on this next series, because we've got, that was that little series right there. Let's see if I can get that where it'll focus well. You can see how see that roundness now, that convexity that we have coming off of that edge? That'll get our flakes to travel way out here on the next series. So now I have to build convexity over here, and we've got a little bit of a flat spot there, and then this area mass. So we're going to be building convexity through those areas, and then the final pass, we'll try to get them to meet up. Well, right on. Yeah, do it, Big Wheeler. Never miss an opportunity to nap. Now look, you see that little flake sticking off my finger? That's just where it's bounced off of my pressure pad and stuck in my finger, just from the pressure of pressing one off of there. If you don't think this stuff's not sharp, whew. Alrighty, let's see what we got here. Okay, it looks like we're more set up to this side. I'm going to brush this and try to take a series of flakes down this way off of this face here. Just to begin the process, I've got one little step right there. It's not too far off the edge, so I think we should be able to get it after this series and come back. So I'm going to take a series of flakes down and brush that, and then see what we're looking like, because you can see that's the area that we've got the most, this mass down here and up here on the tip. Good morning. Jimmy, how you doing? So I'm going to brush back just to make sure that everything going back to that has got those little flakes that we talked about, evening up that edge that I'm pushing on. Then I'm at an angle about 45 degrees, if I can get it to where it'll show. See, there we go. And I'm grinding that top of that, not this way, but like this. And then when you do that, you know, you're gonna grind spots thin in between those. So I'll go back and just brush it and then do the same on the bottom at an angle like that. I'm just trying to get a lot of that dust in there, and I'm trying to take off any little flakes that just, you see how much dust I put on that? Well, I appreciate it, Rick. You know, that's what I'm trying. I love the fact that you guys are, it's going to save you some heartache, you know, down the road, possibly, you know. Because seriously, I've spent a lot of years flint knapping, and a lot of those years there weren't near the resources that are out there. So it's like a guide coat in a... I'm not following you on that one, Rick. I'm sorry. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it might be. I guess you could look at it. Now I understand what you're saying. See, but now there's a great example, guys. I mean, he was speaking in a about something that I guarantee you, if Pappy Nappy Pappy was in here, he'd know exactly what you were talking about. He's a body. They do a lot of the repaint, paint work, body work, and that kind of stuff. So if I say something when I'm referring to this stuff that you don't understand, ask me. There's no such thing as a dumb question. I just like that. I didn't understand what he said. There's probably several people in here that did. But if I would have just went, yeah, that's what it's like. I'm not learning anything from the situation. So never be afraid to ask a question. Now this is going to be some exciting stuff, guys, because this is basically the same thing we just did on the other side. And that's why most of the time, that's why I tell you guys, well, I'll finish this up and I'll show you later. Wow, now you see how much this debris on that hit that little ridge of mass that we've got right here. And you can see that flake initiated right here, and it traveled all the way up over the top of that to right here, and that's where it terminated. Because there's convexity, and it ran that ridge, and you can see there's a little bit of that ridge left right here, and that's what we're working towards. The next couple of flakes will round that off and flatten it, and we'll get rid of that. It's a little sharp though. Needs a... And what you can do on something like this too is that since we're not going, it's not the... Oh, awesome, Big Wheeler. Yeah, just be careful. That stuff is sharp. But I'm going to take a flake on the other side of it. And see, that flake tried to travel out. It went to right there, and I wasn't pushing in at all. So now what we've got is an isolated platform with that ridge behind it. Megan, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Now, I'm not going to try to push a big flake off there because that would make a big, negative spot right there from the bowl percussion. I'm just going to put inward just a little bit and pull down. You see how nice a flake that was, and it went right here. And what it did was, see how that flattened that out? We don't have near as much mass over the top of that. That's all we're trying to do, is just smooth everything out. Oh, that lipped. I don't know why that did that. It kind of bites. I didn't think that was too big of a platform. We'll just have to work around it. There we go. Got a little bit of that back side of that. It's like I said, once you get to this point, little stuff like that happening can negatively impact the point for sure. So now we kind of got it smoothed in there. You still see where that, how it steepened me up right there, where that kind of lipped out. And then I've got a negative spot over here on either side of it that I've got to worry about. So, again, we'll just work into it. But that's why so many of these, like the Daltons especially, the amount of material that you give up setting up those contours, the point, it gets a lot smaller a lot quicker when you're building the convexity and all that stuff. Now, if you have a really smooth, that's why a lot of times you'll hear me say, oh, that's going to make a great Dalton. If I've got a really smooth biface that's uniform thickness, I don't have a lot of issues down the center of it, and I know I can build that convexity, then typically I'm looking at that, especially a lens, a lancelet, leaf-shaped blade like that. I am thinking Dalton all the way. We're getting almost close enough where I can't quite take there's a few spots in there where I can't send the flakes all the way across, or I would start trying to do a finish pass on there. I got one more pass on there. I got to try to be a little bit more patient. One more pass and make this. One more pass and make this nice a bit smaller. If I tried to push through and around all that, because it's going to come off of this face like this, the bottom, then I would end up with a less than nice looking point. So I think I can do better one more. pushed in a little too much on that one. I kind of made a little bit of a flake scar bowl there. Now I'm going to try to come at this. It's almost like isolating, you know, a problem spot on a big biface. You can see how I've worked all the way up this edge. Those flakes are going just to the edge of that, kind of creating that convexity. And I've come up to this spot here, and now I want to try to isolate this, that problem spot. So I'm going to come in from the tip so that I don't have a lot of weight up here that I'm trying to really push hard on. And I'm going to work back just to the edge of this and then work up to it and then try to pull a flake off that's isolated to make it easier to get off there. Okay. See, I came from the tip on that, and now I took those flakes right up next to that. So now I'm going to take flakes that are kind of down and away from this to remove any kind of material that flake that I'm trying to take off there. You see how it's now getting more and more isolated. And there's no material on either side of it for it to spread out and break your point. Now, it's never a guarantee that it won't break your point, but that was another, oh, I got part of that little deal. I wasn't even trying to. I was trying to go off the edge of it. Now this is going to be my important flake right here. I thought I was going to get another couple of shaping flakes, but this is going to be it. Trying to strengthen the ridge on that as much as I can and get it smooth, because this is a pretty important flake. If it doesn't go off right, I'm going to lose quite a bit of length off the tip of this piece trying to fix it. So see, there's that chunky weird spot right here, and there's my platform that I'm going to try to push that off there. Just like that. It trailed out. There it went. And it doesn't look like much, but that right there, this late in the stages of this, can really, really mess you up. Oh, and I just tried to put another one in there. I thought I could kind of flick a little flake off there, and I put another little step in there. It's little, but goodness gracious. I just fixed it and then put another little one right next to it. That's all right. Yeah, we're pretty close to giving this a shot. I'll have some of them that won't go all the way across, because I do have some flat spots, but I'm not going to be able to do. It's going to make the point too small if I keep trying to. But I'm not going to be able to do. It's going to make the point too small if I keep trying to bring those edges. So I'm gonna beef up here and get ready for the final pass. Now I'm going to be asking a lot of these flakes. I'm really going to bear down on them, so I'm making sure that edge doesn't have any little loose or weak spots or flakes in it. I'm trying to take off anything that's going to rob me of that energy and keep it from transferring into this piece. Oh, this is going to be... I'm going to use a spacer, a little anvil stone. I've got, this one's just a little rock that I put some leather on the other side. It's kind of, it works similar to you guys that use the notched pads to get that where your hand pad is not making contact with the where you want the flake to come off. And a lot of times on these later, well, especially those, I tell you where I learned it from. You're using it, what are you using? One of the anvil stones, Big Wheeler? Oh, well, what this does is it kind of creates, I'll show you. Let me make sure I've got my edge set up. And again, guys, this is why you don't watch me do finish work very much, because it's, the way I like to do it is very tedious. And it takes a little bit more concentration for me, because at this point there's not a lot of room for error. If I screw up here, it's going to be in the piece. So I guess part of that is me not wanting to be on camera screwing one up, but at the same time, it's me wanting to concentrate on it. All right. A good sharp, well-dressed tip to start with, and we may do this a couple times during the course of it too. Right on, I'll check it out, Big Wheeler. All right, so I'm gonna set that, you see how that's got the end of that up off it? Well, I'm trying to see how that's setting up off of there, and there's a gap. And I'm holding it with pressure on the stone, and there's no, it's not making, it's not folding that point. It's keeping it up off of there, and it's also making a spot for those flakes. See, that one actually went all the way to the other side. That's what I'm talking about, convexity, guys. That flake started here and tailed out and took part of the other edge. You can see that. There's the flake next to it. Let's make sure I'm in frame here. That one didn't go quite as far. Don't like a tool slip like that. It's kind of a flatter area. I'm gonna, yeah, there we go. That was a pretty beefy platform. So's this one. Let's see, that flake went all the way from that edge to here. Same. There it went. All right. There was that series. And see where it was in this flatter area. You see how those didn't travel as far? Now they built convexity, but we've also got almost a hollow ground edge, and that's we're gonna call that good on that side. That's gonna be finished side. I mean, I'll clean it up, but now we're going to do the opposite side same way, and then set up both sides for the final pass. Stopped a little. I don't want it to start building that kind of an issue there, so. Hey, Bill, good morning. Well, you don't have to notch it if it's a long leaf shape, Big Wheelie. You can turn it into a Dalton or a stems point if you don't want to notch it. And I'd feel a lot better if that little clear flake would just let loose there. All right, I think it'll run through it there now. There it went. Well, next to it, oh, I can deal with that. Yeah, it's more like it. All right, there was that pass. You can see the pattern there. So now we've got this side here and this one here. And every time we've gone down this and smoothed and thinned it, you see how fine that edge is now and how straight. Try a little bit sharper point for my final pass here, maybe. Can find one that I like. I guess I'm going to stick with the one I had. There it was. Well, that one went. Well, thank you, real people. I appreciate it. That was a nice little series that we just ran down there, and it came close to matching up, except for, like I said, in that flat spot that I knew was clean up. I got one more flake right here. I might be able to get into this, but that's right in front of our hafting area, and that's well, you don't have them. Right on, Big Wheel. I'll check it out here in a little bit. I'm not sure I'm following you there, real people. Real people. I try not to lip flake this, but there it went. Oh yeah, well you know I do occasionally do zigzag type stuff. You know that's just a a technique for reducing the material on a square edge, but yeah, I mean, it does look a little different. It does, real people, and I know exactly what you're saying. And like I said, I choose these tools. I love working with them, but I mean, it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. A lot of folks like the art aspect only of flint knapping. I do like the art part. I do look at my work as art, but I call my work functional art. It could be used for the intended purpose that it was designed for, and I try to make them look as nice as possible. So, and I think that's probably closer to what the old boys were doing. Was, if you do work that you're proud of, and you're able to perform right on, Big Wheeler. I'm pretty proud of the fact that I could take off into the woods. You too, real people. But I can take off into the woods, and I don't need any tools. I don't need a knife. I don't need an axe. I don't need anything. I just need rocks. I could make a hand axe, chop down a tree, make a knife with one strike off. To me, that's something that you can't buy that in a store for sure. Oh yeah, we got that. That's nice. Yeah, Big Wheel, I've got... Oh, right on. Yeah, my mom saved my first point. And recently gave it back to me. And hey, Damien, you too. I will on leave or aren't getting good service or whatever. Check in a few days. I think we uploaded a few just the other day, so there will be more coming. All of these lives going forward are going to be available in a playlist on YouTube, so check that out if you guys want to. Oh, yeah. Okay, we got one more pass to do. Coming back this way. That'll be this series of flakes. So there's our one side. That's before cleanup and before picking off all the little deltas and straightening up the edge. But you can see that we got a pretty decent flake pattern on it. A lot of these little hangnails, Georgetown is notorious for that. I'll get a lot of those to brush off. I'll pick them off. And then I'll put a finished pick of this up, later today or tomorrow for those of you that have been watching. But like I said, I'm going to do one more series here, and then we'll do the base on it. And I'll probably do, I don't know, I may do some finish work on it, like the cleanup. I just don't want you guys to be bored with what I'm doing. I mean, I know it's like the same thing over and over. But that's the thing on these Daltons, is it is very specific. I mean, you know, you could probably get away with a few less pressure flake series if you've got a really, really smooth, really, really nice, even platform, or even biface. But if there's any issues to work out of it whatsoever, there's going to be a lot of pressure flaking, a lot of adjusting edges and building convexity. This is my one modern device that I try to use for fast reshaping on stuff, guys. And that's just to save you from watching me for about a half an hour grind on this. I'm not really making a point on it, I'm thinning out this area back here. Kind of reduce the mass a little bit of it. Well, Bill, there in a lot of cases, absolutely, Rick. Yeah, this is a camera angle that I'll be able to show you guys. You know, a lot of the pressure flaking and stuff. Bill, to answer your question, you can see those, they're like serrations already. Those little, you take those, depending on the spacing, if I had made these a little closer together, then the points would line up. And the serrations are actually just a byproduct of this. But I could go back in and accentuate each one of those if I wanted to, or I could intentionally. I don't do a lot of point serrations. I don't. It's one of those things, it just doesn't speak to me the way that I like the look of a nice, clean, sleek point. And, you know, Daltons, some of them were serrated, some of them weren't. I don't know, just something to me about a nice, sleek Dalton that I really like the look of. That one went almost to the other side. I'm going to have to be careful with these that I don't blow out the other side and end up having to make a drill. Don't like that flake at all there. Now I've lost my monitor again, it looks like here. Let's mess around with this for a second. All right, there we go. Appears I have a power cord issue again. All right, I didn't miss anything. I put one little step in that sucker and it really kind of irritates me, but it would come out in the first sharpening or two, but how those are, it's almost like serrations right there. Which, well, it essentially is serrated. I mean, and each of those points, you know, they come up to the next one. And this is, I mean, I dulled it a little bit, but it's super sharp. All right, so I'm going to lose a little bit of length because it's a little bit narrower right there than I want it to be, but we're going to even up the base. Looks like I should have been paying a little bit more attention as I went along there. I kind of let the base get a little bit wonky, and I'm going to lose a little bit of length because of it, and a little width. Almost the same way that I dragged that the stone on the side of it. I'm just pulling off these little tiny flakes. I'll show you. Let's see if I can get them nice and clean here. All right. So now if I go back and pick these little deltas off, I can get it to come off there. There it went. There it went. That sucker is sharp. You can see and I didn't really accentuate those. I just was pulling off the tips of them, but the edges of that are extremely sharp. All right, we're getting our contours starting to come around here. I'm setting this up for the final edge turn is going to be on this side of the point. So as it's facing away from me, the point away from me, I'm going to bevel down on the right side. When you're sharpening a Dalton, unless it was a left-handed napper, they were beveled on the left side with, I always remind myself it's base to wrist or tip to wrist. And this one, you want it pointed back towards you because you're gonna resharpen it on this face, and then it would be flipped and resharpened on the same face. And that's how you end up with that twist that's in the as it gets sharpened. It's almost always ground or flake opposite of that, almost like an anti-torque kind of setup. Oh, coffee tastes pretty good this morning. Oh my goodness. I don't know why this intermittent issue that I've got going on here with my, there it comes. I guess it's power relay, I don't know. Kind of irritating. I know you guys don't lose the view, but I can't see where the heck I am in the frame, so, or your comments, and I try not to miss any comments. like the lines on that. Much better now. Okay, let's put the base in, and then we'll finish our final edge stuff once that base is in. Don't want to get a bunch too thin or anything on anything. Right now it's looking pretty good. So on the Daltons, they weren't necessarily fluted, but there was basal thinning that happened. And I think it only makes sense. I mean, these were preceded by the Clovis and the Folsom cultures. So that technology of thinning the blade in the hafting area was already there from their predecessors. So even though it's not a true flute, it's more of a pressure or a thinning area, depending. Like the Sloan Daltons, they just did a series of pressure flakes in on a lot of those. On the what everybody calls the classic Dalton, you've got a big pressure flake, or possibly indirect, right up the center of the point in the hafting area. And that's the type we're going to try, is one that'll run up in here a little bit. Now this is going to be just like when we're isolating a platform, you know, or when you're going to flute, when we're isolating a platform, you know, or when you're going to flute away from that center spot there. And what I'm doing by doing that is isolating. Oh, come on, hold up now. There it went. Now it's real similar in that you're trying to get that flake to detach where you want it to. Onto this piece. So I put in a couple little spots, you know, little thin areas. I'm going to grind that platform to where it's smooth, where I'm making good contact. I don't like the way that's. There, I like that better. Because this is not one of those situations where we're trying to take a big, huge flute. We're just trying to get a nice, clean termination up into, you know, the hafting area, somewhere up in here, if possible. It's definitely not something that's, you know, necessary for it to be a very big flute. See if I can get a little bit more. I want a larger area, so I've got a little bit bigger, it's like a G1, and I'm going to push in, same as what I'm doing when I'm trying to take a pressure flake of any kind. Bless you, hon. Bless you, hon. Yeah, it didn't go as far as I wanted it to. It was a little thin, but we can just do more of a, I'll pull a few more flakes off the sides of it. There we go. That's better. Yeah, I can live with that. And it doesn't have to be a very big platform. I just need enough where I can grab a hold of it with my pressure flaker. And I might actually come back and try to do the other side, depending on how this one goes. Yeah, that's about like the other side. I'm good with that. One thing about these Daltons, if you start messing with the base too much, they don't look right. There was another nice one right there. Now there's a little bit of cleanup stuff to do on this, but we're getting close to the end of the live this morning, and I'll probably work on this and clean it up some more this afternoon. I've got somebody coming over to sit with me to nap for a little while today, so it's another reason why I wasn't being real aggressive with what I was doing. I didn't want to be tired out as far as physically bi-facing and that kind of stuff. So I appreciate you guys letting me do something a little bit more low-key. little, those little fingernail flakes, and it'll, like that one right there, just popped right off. Just a light little brush on this, and I know it looks like it's scratching it up and dusting it up, but so many of those little fingernail flakes will just pop off when you do that. Just don't brush your edges. Let's see, just a little bit. Put a little water on there. Wash some of that off. Now, if you notice, it doesn't have a very sharp point or tip on it. On a Dalton, as much pressure flaking as there is in moving that thing around, you want to be careful and not do a real sharp point too soon. That should be one of the last things that you do when you're doing like your final cleanup and edge work, because when you make those points so Hey, Brandon, how you doing? Just a little bit more off this side and I'll be happy with it. Now again, guys, like I said, hey, right on, Kenosha. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to working that. And I will make sure I wait until you're in the live before I do it. So, all right, guys. Well, I've got a little bit of finished cleanup work here to do. But I think we finished a pretty acceptable version of a Georgetown Dalton. Got really nice lines. I mean, it ended up being a nice straight thin piece. If you notice, like I said, nice lines. I mean, it ended up being a nice straight thin piece. If you notice, like I said, these Daltons typically right in here's the thicker places on your point is right in this, just in front. I'm a little thick through my hafting area, but all in all, I'm pretty happy with it, especially the piece of rock that we got this from. Those of you that were in the, thank you, Rick, I appreciate it. Those of you that were in here on the live when I started this piece, it was a wonky piece of Georgetown. It was probably about that long-ish, I'd say it was a good inch or a little bit longer, but that thing was thick in some places, had a big bow in the center. So, you know, it was a piece of rock that a lot of people would have thrown down because it just didn't look like you could make anything out of it. And to me, that's where the challenge is at, is, you know, picking a piece of rock like that and then being able to talk it into making a nice point. See, and this is what I'll do with these, is I'll sit and look at it, and then I'll see a spot and I'll pick at it, and that's another reason why you guys sometimes don't see finished stuff, because, you know, you can pick at it too much and mess it up. So there's a fine line where you just say, okay, that's done. Don't mess with it anymore. But right here, what I'm doing is just picking off those little, the tiniest little deltas. Got a little spot right here that I just, the balance of it just didn't look right. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. It's still got a little bit of an area right here that's a little out of line with what's going on, but all in all, we're going to call that one done today. And like I said, I'm getting ready got somebody coming over to nap with me this afternoon. I'm looking forward to. So sorry about last night, guys, on the live. We were having some technical difficulties here at the KBO. So one of the things to put up with living out in the country, I don't mind it too much. I like living out here. So if that's the worst thing that we got to put up with, then, you know, I can deal with that. Anyway, there's what we finished up today. I'll be back in here tomorrow. Hopefully you guys are able to make it back in. If there's any stuff that you guys did say you like this view pretty well. This was something for pressure flaking that I can use this. We'll try to do a flake reduction like you were asking about, because, you know, we can do, you know, I can strike a flake off or use a flake. Hey, Dado, what's up? So we'll be able to show that within this view. It's not too bad. I hope I wasn't too much out of view for you guys today. I tried pretty hard to stay in there. The delivery is on. You lost me there, Dado Roy. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm gonna get off here. Right on, Big Wheeler. I appreciate it. I'll go check that out as soon as I get off here. Any messages you guys send me, I usually go check that and try to write down anything you've asked me to do. So until tomorrow, guys, I will see you then. Hope you have a good day. Take care of yourselves. Right on, Rick. I tell you what, I'll keep this same camera angle, and tomorrow we'll see if we can't work a few flakes. Right on, Big Wheeler. Thank you for coming in. Guys, take care of yourselves and those around you. And until tomorrow, keep chipping.